All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for attending today. Our Incarceration Prevention and Reduction Task Force Law and Justice Council meeting for November 18th, 2024. Let us begin with our land acknowledgement, which I will now read. Before we begin, we acknowledge that we are gathered on the traditional and unceded territory of the Lummi, Nooksack, Samish, and Semiahmoo people who have cared for and tended this land since time immemorial. Truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. We begin this effort to acknowledge what has been buried by honoring the truth. We pay respect to their elders, past and present. Please take a moment to consider the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that bring us together here today. And please join us in uncovering such truths at any and all public events. And we will begin today with a presentation for 2025. We'll review our priorities, our draft objectives, and draft calendar. And Marty, do you want to bring it up on screen, our little presentation here? I believe Heather will kick us off.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Okay. I am so excited about this presentation, and I'm so excited that all of you are here and that most of you have screens on because we're excited for your participation. Just a quick reminder of where we've been. Actually, I'll do that on the next slide. When I was looking over this presentation and preparing, I revisited the sales use tax ordinance for the new jail and behavioral health funding stream because I wanted to orient into really what is the Incarceration Prevention Reduction Task Force role in all of the new projects moving forward in the implementation plan. And I expect that at a future meeting, we'll go through that ordinance in detail together, but it was pretty, it was a good refresh to look at where IPRTF shows up in that ordinance. In Section 5, in interjurisdictional and stakeholder coordination, the IPRTF has a pretty significant role in number 3 around advising the county and cities on policy matters related to law and justice, participating in the development of a population health report, and looking to maximize resources, build capacity, and align plans in order to accomplish the projects of the implementation plan. In Section 8 and Section 9, we have a very significant role in future implementation plan updates and progress reports, as well as in oversight, accountability, and transparency. I always find it helpful to go back to those originating documents to then look at what is our role in all of this work moving forward. And so to summarize and add in a little bit from the enabling ordinance that created the task force, I think those are the 2 key ordinances for our work. We are responsible for catalyzing action, but we're usually not the actors. So we may advise on the policies for a behavioral care center, but we won't necessarily be the ones going and putting those bricks in and building that building ourselves, right? And we're charged with identifying needs, researching and promoting best practices, ensuring community engagement, accountability, and transparency, generating policy recommendations, and making recommendations to the county council and the executive's office. So on the next slide, just a recap on why are we even talking about this? How did we get here? So when Peter and I became the co-chairs, we started meeting with all of the committees to listen to what would you like to focus on? What do you see as opportunities? Where are there challenges? And we included a summary report in your packet you received in your email today that captured a lot of what we heard. From there, at the August and September meetings, you might remember we went through the implementation plan projects and we asked the questions, who is involved in each of these and what committees would make sense to have touch points with these projects. And then at the last IPRTF meeting, I think we had a really fun exercise where we put the top 10 goals that we've been hearing about up on the screen, and we started to vote and see where's there the most energy and excitement and interest and priority to move something forward. So from there, we had these top 3 goals from that exercise that shook out. Number 1 is adapting best practices for designing and operating the new jail and behavioral care center. Number 2 is creating a data dashboard. And number 3 is strengthening and evaluating diversion programs. So these are the top 3. All 10 are important, and we expect that we will be addressing all 10 as a task force in some way, shape, or form, but we have to start somewhere. And so these 3 were also the top 3 by a landslide. You'll see in your packet the actual the ends and the percentages. And so these 3 were the top 3 by quite a bit. But we do want to not lose sight of all 10. So we're just going to go through the exercise of prioritization around these top 3 first. And we're going to go through some of the details in the next few slides of what this could look like.
Great, and I'm going to take the first 2 goals. The number 1 goal is adapt best practices for designing and operating new jail and behavioral care center. And I just want to frame this up a little bit. The goal really is to ensure that the new jail and behavioral care center are designed and operated using evidence-based best practices. And this should allow us to balance safety and efficiency and provision of care and reflect the values and the needs that we have spent a number of years bringing forward. And so who's involved here? The internal design team really is, the charge is led by the sheriff's office, and participants in this process are being added as this process evolves. Kayla, of course, she is heading this up from the executive's office, and she's ensuring the alignment with our broader county initiatives. And then, of course, a very important role played by the Health and Community Services. Their involvement is particularly critical to the behavioral care center, and it reflects our community's behavioral health needs and our focus from the beginning. Then the Finance and Facilities Advisory Board. There are many members here of that board. That's myself and Heather and Scott Cortice and Chief Mertzig, Mayor Lund, Sheriff Tank, and Barry Buchanan. And we're going to be providing direct feedback to the IPRTF to ensure transparency and inform our decision making. So what subcommittees are involved? Well, JPOP, behavioral health, and law and justice. And they're going to be providing, essential input. JPOP is more oversight and strategic guidance. Behavioral health, of course, has expertise on treatment and care integration. And then the law and justice committee has input on operations and alignment with our justice system goals. So collaboration on the IPRTF is vital on this goal at every level. And each of these groups brings our unique expertise, and this should really ensure the success of the largest capital project that Whatcom County has ever taken on, and one that our community is really counting on us to deliver. I really encourage the subcommittees and our members to actively engage across this goal, and we need your insights and any issues that you have moving forward. We all need to kind of pull together to accomplish this. how do we support this? Well, we're going to track the progress and status. We're going to stay informed about as the process evolves, monitor our developments and ensure that we're aligning everything along the way. And we have the expertise in this room, so to speak, to make sure that we're using our best practices and researching models to, like we saw in both Nashville and in Columbus, to apply these and move them forward. There's a local pilot project happening right now at the work center called Making Changes, and it's based upon something that we saw in Columbus, Ohio, and it's pilot projects like these led by Lifeline Connections that can inform us and help us build good practices along the way. And so we want to be engaging the community. It's a very important part of our whole process. We need to do surveys, focus groups, forums, and keep that communication open to our citizens. We can ask meaningful questions along the way, incorporate feedback, and work with all of our stakeholders and be sure that we're addressing our community's issues and concerns. We want to bring everybody together on this to create a excellent jail and behavioral care center. Then communication. Communication is just critically important that we maintain that trust and transparency and accountability through this whole process, and making those recommendations from this body to the council and to the executive. We're going to be really focusing on that, bringing up the best ideas and recommendations and bringing them forward. So let's move on to the next goal, planning goal 2. That would be creating a data dashboard. So the purpose of the data dashboard, of course, is to centralize an accessible tool to monitor and analyze data related to criminal justice and incarceration prevention and reduction. And that dashboard is meant to enhance transparency and support evidence-based decision-making and track progress so that we can minimize jail use and improve system efficiency. And who is involved in this? Well, it's every agency that collects the data, law enforcement, corrections, courts, public defenders, prosecutors, and of course the health department. And then there is a role there for community and jail-based provider organizations as well. And we now hopefully have signed an agreement with Village Reach, who are helping us to perform a evaluation and performance measurement plan. And our task force subcommittees, the Index Committee and JPOP, are going to be particularly important in helping us shape this dashboard and develop policy goals, the relevant metrics, and measures that we're going to need for each of those metrics. So let's see. So the Index and subcommittee and the JPOP subcommittees are going to be very critical in that. And so our next steps, we're going to work collaboratively over the next 18-month period to ensure the data dashboard is robust and user-friendly and reflective of best practices. We cannot navigate very well without data, and we are kind of behind the ball on data already. So we're going to want to move this along just as quickly as possible. So that's what I've got for you on the first two goals. Heather, do you want to handle that third one?
I do. And so the third top goal is we all want to strengthen and evaluate diversion programs. So on the next slide, I think we all have a good idea of what diversion programs are, but we can go over that if you'd like. And I always just think about, you know, we are the Incarceration Prevention and Reduction Task Force. We all believe that, you know, people should get the care they need in the appropriate places they need it. And we need places to divert people to. And so we have a variety of diversion programs operating right now. And we've got a lot of stakeholders involved in those diversion programs. So we have the Whatcom County Health and Community Services Response Systems Division that hosts GRACE and LEAD, and probably others that I don't even know about. The Public Defender's Office practices some diversion programs, the Whatcom Prosecutor's Office, our courts, the City of Bellingham, and then we have some subcommittees involved in looking at diversion programs often, including the Behavioral Health Subcommittee and the Legal and Justice System Subcommittee. One thing I would add on here as another stakeholder is the community-based programs that are really critical also to offering the diversion supports and housing and things like that. It's a big topic. So on the next slide, here are some ways that we can contribute to strengthening and evaluating diversion programs. We can track implementation and evaluation of programs. So once a program's in place, we of course want to know that it's effective and that we're getting the return on the investment. We can learn from pilot projects and recommend pilots to test new models. We can research models and best practices across the nation. Where is diversion successful? We can communicate process and progress to general public and really support that community engagement piece. And we can, of course, make recommendations to council and executive to support diversion options. Holly, I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. All right. I am now on, and for some reason, how did I do this? Marty, is the screen still up? And I just flipped my screen. Oh, there we go. Oh, I found a new tab. Good morning, everybody. Okay, I get to do the part of the presentation that is related to the steps moving forward. And this is the section where we're also going to ask for everybody to chime in at various points and get your 2 cents. So what we're aiming to do now is to develop this 18-month plan and related calendar for our work together. So what that's going to look like, next slide. In your packet, you saw there's this draft calendar, and we're going to be starting to fill this in after today's meeting so that we can really prioritize our time together. And so here's what it looks like. You can see we're here in November. Agree upon key presentations and the preferred schedule for those, and to review these priorities and draft objectives. So when I say agree, I don't mean we need to vote on all these, but we really do want to get your input on making sure these line up with what you think the priorities are. And then from that input, we'll be starting to reach out to the presenters and determine people's availability, and then really start to fill in what this calendar is going to look like. And you notice I also want to flag down here in April the concept of doing a joint community forum on the jail and behavioral care center. So that's going to take some planning, but again, pretty fundamental to one of the first responsibilities that Heather laid out at the beginning of the presentation, which is to be engaging with the public and making sure that our work is really reflective of community interests. So this is the basic tool. So part of our hope with these schedules, we've heard from more than one of the county's staff that they need more lead time. They need to, for them to be able to show up at IPRTF meetings and to come well prepared, just making sure that they have plenty of lead time. They know when it's going to happen and it's going to fit within their schedule. So that's one of our hopes, is to just make sure we're using people's time well. We want to make sure that the IPRTF is well informed, and that also we have an opportunity not just to be the audience, right? The audience, but to actually have engaged conversations. So that's what we're going to be aiming for. And this calendar also assumes that we are going to have time for discussion of these quarterly updates, which Kayla has really set the standard here in terms of providing these quarterly updates from the executive's office, and also thinking about quarterly updates from other folks here at the IPRTF who also have key roles to play in the implementation plan, right? So it's not just the executive's office. We've got other players here in the system, and we want to start making sure that we're getting onto a good flow with those updates. Next slide. All right, so these are the ones we want to get your attention on and see if these line up with your thinking. So first one, in talking with Marty and I talking to Heather and Peter, it seemed like we maybe would benefit from a better understanding of what it actually looks like to develop recommendations and bring motions to the county and recommendations to the executive's office. That we need, if that's our job, do we have a common understanding of actually how to do that and what those look like? So that would be one conversation we could have, and have somebody who could speak to us about that. The other three are related specifically to our three priorities. So the jail and behavioral care center design, best practices, pilot projects, hoping perhaps that Deputy Erickson could speak to us on that early on. So, because he's in motion, he has a lot of thoughts on that. But like, get everybody in the IPRTF caught up on that and have a chance to answer, to talk about it. The data being collected and key metrics, I'm on item 3 for the implementation plan projects. So, that's in the hopper. We're going to, at some point have Village Reach, which is the contractor working with Health and Community Services. And so the idea is that contractor is going to come and be getting our input on what the metrics are. So we should anticipate that at some point in Q1, 2025. And then another proposed presentation would be getting more information from the Health and Community Services Response Division about the diversion program. So that's on what they've got going now and pilot projects, so that we can get more informed about what they're thinking about now. So this is also in your packet. And what I'd like to do is just pause right here and ask the question, how do those sound to you all? Do you have recommendations on who you would hope would be the speakers? And maybe people could raise hands. Anything that you are hoping would be presentations that are not listed there? Or you love these? These are perfect. Yeah, Maya?
They're very good. Thanks for putting them.
Thanks. Great. Appreciate that. Anybody else? How do these work for you? You can also use your thumbs up sign on your, we have so many little icons these days. These work for you. Yeah, Eric, go ahead.
I was trying to give it thumbs up.
But you got your hand close enough. Great.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. Okay, guys, are these working? Yeah,
Okay. In regard to the diversion programs, I mean,
yeah.
I appreciate that Lead and Grace, through increasing or decreasing recidivism, could fall into like somebody's category of a diversion program, but they don't really divert chargeable offenses from the criminal legal system, which is maybe we need to like determine what our definition is of diversion programs. But
Yeah.
there are, I mean, yeah. So I think like really the prosecutor's office has to kind of be a leading role in that subject matter. And I definitely have ideas and want to help and support that. We've, like, for instance, there's the youthful adult diversion program that 2 years in a row we've had Northwest just I'm sorry, I'm blanking. Northwest Youth.
Sir.
Thank you. Apply for grants to try to get off the ground, sort of based on the idea of the teen court model. And
Yeah.
but for 2 years we've failed to receive the grant we've applied for, but like there's got to be other funding resources out there when the idea is already sort of created. So I don't know. I just don't want, I want the diversion program discussion to be meaningful in terms of truly diverting cases out of the criminal legal system. I don't mean to minimize the effect of the caseworker support, and that's from LEAD and all that. It's just they're not really tied to criminal cases, and I think we need we need to get more granular on that. Thanks.
Yeah. Great feedback. Thank you. Yeah, and it's also something that's different. Like there's an area that you all are pretty familiar with, but what else is going on? Yeah, Eric. Go ahead.
Yes. So now I have my hand up on purpose, and I'll just say that I appreciate what Maya said, and I can tell her that preparing and developing these programs as such as LEAD is difficult. My office put in great resources to doing that years ago, and it was my office doing it. I had personnel that I had put on that program to develop that program. They were able to get the funding for that program outside of the county and city, and the resources are great, and I don't have those resources today. I would appreciate when we talk about this that we talk about resources that we can develop to make a program, because it's not an easy thing to do. It's not just a snap of the fingers, things happen. It's not just an idea, hey, get it done. I just want everybody to be aware of that and to recognize that it takes resources to make programs happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that and you raise a good point too about the amount of work that went into getting those programs identified, established, funded, on the ground, vetted, refined. And so I guess maybe what would be the difference with this one, if I'm hearing it right, would be what other kinds of things could we do, right? Like at the beginning phase, almost like what kinds of things we do? What are best practices, maybe, Eric, that you're aware of that you wish you could do if you had funding, and that we could be looking at some of those things?
Right. I would like support in all of those things. I mean,
Yep.
Dan Hamill, he's got his hand up, but I'm gonna jump in before he says some things. Dan and other community members were great to, help us refine some of the ideas that we put forward. But there was work behind the scenes that you just can't imagine.
Yep.
You just can't imagine it. And everybody just needs to be aware of that. I can't emphasize that enough.
I can't find my thumbs up, but
Yeah, there we go. We can use the old-fashioned way, right? Like, everybody hear that? I'm really getting that. Yes. Do we acknowledge? Yes. So noted. Hallelujah. Yeah. Okay, Dan, you're up.
Thanks. Good morning, everyone. Hey, I just wanted to chime in real quick, and I don't know
Yep.
if this applies to this like stack of priorities for presentations for 2025, but I would like to have a discussion at some point on the city of Bellingham's contributions. We've committed to a very large amount of funding for behavioral health interventions over the not quite out years, but sort of. And I'd like to understand how that's being explained to the public, and also to this task force. It does it touches on a number of these components here, number 2, number 4, specifically Number 4 is more programmatic, and that what Maya brought up in terms of, you know, getting like some fine points on what diversion programs actually look like. So that's my first point, is like, what does the city's contributions for behavioral health look like, and how do we discuss those things? The other thing that's missing from this, I think, and I don't know where it exactly goes, but the behavioral health campus that's being developed on Division Street, how does that integrate and intersect with the work that's being done here? So those are my 2 kind of primary questions at this point. Thanks.
How do we discuss those things relative to the city's contribution? Is that what you're asking?
I'm asking, what I'm asking for is a better explanation of how the city's contributions will, for behavioral health, there have been commitments made, and there's been an
Right?
administration change. And so I want to understand what that's going to look like moving into the future, because we've made some commitments here. We being the broader we, including the Yes campaign, for the initiative, to make major investments in behavioral health care. And whether that's at the beginning or on the sequential intercept model, or the end, or all the way through, I think we just need to have a better understanding of what that looks like.
Dan, do you mind if I probe a little bit and just ask who, those seem like really important questions, and I'm wondering how would you imagine that conversation happening? Like, who would come and present on it? How could we make that into a engaged and supportive conversation?
Yeah, I think that it would be our executive's office, which is the mayor's office,
Mhm.
talking with the county's executive office, and then probably the county health department and the resource or the response systems division. And there's some integration that we have not, I mean, we've kind of like tentatively gone into, and we've done pretty well in some of the programs that Maya brought up with Lead and Grace, and Eric brought up. Um, but I think that we need to just have a real plain conversation as to, you know, how those things fit together
Yep.
in the model that we're talking about here.
Yep. Got it. That makes sense. So it sounds like if we're going to have that conversation at the level of the IPRTF, backing all the way out, you would say, okay, what are the conversations? Like what do we need to give to the IPRTF, and what information do we want to gather? What kind of feedback do we want to gather? And backing up from that, what conversations do we have to have before we even walk in that meeting with the smaller group to really think it through a little bit and make sure that we're in coordination before we show up?
That's
Is that
correct. I think,
tracking?
yeah, I think there's been this kind of consistent thing that's been on my mind as the co-chair of the Behavioral Health Committee, that
Mm.
all of the members of that committee need to have a common understanding, a common language of what
Mhm.
it is that we're doing. And I think that at the task force and justice level, that we need to have the same thing.
Yeah, got it. Makes good sense. Thank you. Kayla.
Yeah, thanks. I think, yeah, certainly I think sort of that shared investment and commitment on the behavioral health side, that conversation needs to happen. So appreciate Dan bringing it up. I just want to be careful that we're not we're not duplicating the role of the Finance and Facility Advisory Board, whose role is to have that conversation around the investment of the sales tax revenue. And I think there's a lot of advisory bodies in the mix here, and it's sort of challenging to figure out what's the best place to have which conversation. So I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, great point. So yeah, which ones would go to the Finance Advisory Board, which ones would come here, or if there's a sequencing that would make sense? Yeah, thank you. Eric?
I just want to say that I'm heading out to the work center to see the new reentry program. So I have to take off. I would have put on the message here, but I don't see it on my screen anyway.
Glad. Well, that would be hearing more about the reentry program, or the whatever it's called. What's it called? Say again.
I don't know.
Well, I'm glad you're going. Hearing
Thanks.
more about that would also be awesome. So thank you for letting us know, and we'll be in touch soon. Okay, Heather, I think your hand was up.
I just wanted to add that there are a couple of key things in the ordinance that help me a lot in this conversation. I could share my screen for a second, Marty. I have it up if that's easy. Because I think about always what is the end in mind? If we have these goals that we have to get to, what do we need in order to achieve those goals? So let's see if I have permission. There's just a couple of key therefores that I think are helpful. Like in section 8 for subsequent implementation plans and implementation plan amendments. So that giant, 100 and some odd page justice implementation plan document.
Can you
Right.
Can you zoom that, make it bigger, please?
Yes. Let me see if I can do that easily.
That's working. Yeah.
Okay. So no less than every 2 years, the Whatcom County Executive shall coordinate with the IPRTF and the Finance Advisory Board to update the implementation plan with a detailed spending plan for the public health, safety, and justice tax that adheres to the terms of this ordinance. The spending plan may not impede the county's ability to pay debt service on facility bonds issued against the tax. So that's a big responsibility that the IPRTF has, and these are the early building blocks to get us to, okay, this passed in 2023. So in 2025, early 2026, what's that new implementation plan and what's the information we'll need in order to actually make informed recommendations on what those updates need to be? So that is part of why we want to be monitoring progress and accomplishments and helping create the containers for the conversations that need to happen. And then no less than every 5 years, the Whatcom County Executive will coordinate with IPRTF and the Finance Advisory Board to update the Justice Project Implementation Plan based on an analysis of data, measurements for outcomes, efficacy of the current plan, and in alignment with the population health report, such as the community health assessment, as well as cost estimates, timelines, and gaps in resources needed to reach community health targets.
Mhm.
And then in the section 9, oversight, accountability, and transparency, we say that IPRTF shall monitor progress toward the goals of the Justice Project and shall provide a written and oral report no less than annually to the Finance Advisory Board and Whatcom County Council. This report shall detail steps taken to achieve the goals of the implementation plan, an assessment of progress toward goals, a review of resources needed to further meet goals, and recommendations for any necessary updates to the implementation plan and/or spending plan. So I want to fulfill those responsibilities really well, and I think we all do. And so that's really a big motivation for having these early, just clarifying conversations about how do we get to these, how do we check these boxes in a really informed and robust way.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know about the rest of you, but I could hear several conversations we could have just clarifying a number of those points in that resolution. Good. So, is there anybody else who'd like to chime in? Marty, could you pop the screen back up with that list of suggested topics? So I want to flag, we've got this idea of having a different look at the diversion programs, what Maya had brought it up and Eric had commented on. And then Dan's suggestion about the sort of the city's contribution and how that's integrated. And then, of course, how to kind of phase that with the conversations that might be happening at the Finance Advisory Board meeting. So anything else, Tammy or Jake or Deborah, or who else is here? Rosa, Jason, Dean, anything else that you think would be, Scott, anything else you think would be good for us to be thinking about trying to calendar in for this year? Bertie. Okay, Bertie, go ahead, please.
I just have one question. Are these proposed for the entire year or for the first? At one point, I thought I heard someone say first quarter, which seemed like a lot.
Oh,
No,
heck
whole
no,
year.
not first quarter. This is the
Thank
entire
you.
year. No, just figuring it out in first quarter.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, anything else? Okay, if you think of something afterwards, yeah, Deborah, please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've brought this up before, but I think it would be really, really great to have Judge Jennifer Hosen
Mhm.
present on Skagit Community Court. It's a diversion program that's been pretty successful down there. However, I think the drawback is that it just deals with district court. But anyway, I was really encouraged by what I heard when I went down and listened to the presentation at Skagit Valley College.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. What was the judge's name again? Just so I
So her name is, she said she would like to speak to the group to talk to her. Okay, Jennifer, Jenifer
Mhm.
Hosen, Howson.
Awesome. Great. Thank you for that.
Mhm.
Hey, anybody else have anything they'd like to suggest? Okay. Great. Okay, so for people who offered some suggestions, we'll probably be following up with you to get some ideas for speakers and also just sort of like kind of the little more detail about what might be most helpful. But that was excellent. Really appreciate it. Yeah, Raylene, you got another idea?
Yeah, just real quick, Holly, Stephanie and I might have some input later on, but both of us are a
Okay.
little busy this morning with resetting everybody in the case management system. So just a side note, thank you.
Terrific. Yeah, if you all think of anything, please just send over an email to Peter and Heather, and then we'll pick it up. And then we're gonna, as I mentioned, trying to figure out. Let's pop that calendar back up if we could. So go up one slide, Marty, if you would please. So our goal for this month is to, try and nail down what are the conversations we want to have in the coming year, then talk to people who could present on that and engage the IPRTF in a discussion as well, right? It's not just sending information, but having an exchange, and then start to slot those into our calendar. So that's the plan to be well organized. Okay, let's move on then. So next steps. Now we're going to shift from kind of how we're going to gather information on focus topics to what the committees will be doing. So in these committee discussions that we're inviting you to have, and Peter, I don't know if I'm still the presenter here or if this shifts to you, but basically I'll keep going for this part at any rate, which are for everybody at your committee level to be thinking about the 2 to 3 things that you want to achieve. So really focusing. I think that part of the challenge we all face is there's so many things we could talk about. So how are we going to really narrow down to the most important things? So bearing in mind our bigger priorities that we've identified as a whole. And of course, there's other stuff that you're going to want to focus on related to all the goals, but what are the 2 to 3 things you want to achieve in the coming year and your timeline? Being really specific about here's what we want to try and do in the first 6 months. Here's what we'd like to do in the 12 months. And thinking about when you'd be ready to share your work with the whole task force so we can carve out time in the agenda. So that's the planning that will happen internally for the committees. And Peter and Heather are going to be available to work with you on that, just to support you in that work. Peter has one tool that he developed that may be really helpful to you. So yeah, Peter, why don't you share what this tool is?
Sure. Yeah, I just want to reiterate from Heather and myself that we are very interested in working with all the committee chairs. How can we be helpful? We would like to be helpful in whatever way to work with your committees to move these things forward, to plan these out over the next 18 months, to coordinate with this larger body so that we can all get this work done together. So I put this together to hopefully be helpful in showing you on the left, this is a kind of flow chart of our different committees and subcommittees. And, you know, if you think of this as our vessel, we, you know, is this arrangement of committees and work groups and such, what we need for the next 18 months to get done what we need to get done. There have been some questions about changing one of our committees and changing its mission, or maybe spinning up a new one. I'm referring to, of course, to the Crisis Stabilization Committee. There's one work group that kind of was spun down because this work is already complete, but you know, Dan and Stephen have done such a great job of putting together, bringing on new people in the behavioral health subcommittee. What work groups might need to be spun up in behavioral health to handle some of these tasks that we are setting out for ourselves over the next 18 months. So those are some of the questions. And then you can see in the center there are our 10 goals, and I believe they've now been arranged by priority, how we prioritize them, with the 3 that we went through today at the very top. And then under who, this is
that's actually not true, but and I'm sorry about that. This is these goals are in a different order. They're in
okay.
order.
All right, we've got a versioning problem, but yeah, we'll update that. So the who refers to which committees are taking on what goals, and then for each of those goals, we'll want to put together strategies for reaching those goals, and then the tactics within them. And I've just put together some draft example ways that we could approach this there on the right for one of the goals. And you know, the way that this IPRTF is set up, it's very much dependent upon the good work of the committees to move things forward. So we want to be helpful in working with you and your committees to address these goals and come up with strategies and tactics for getting us to excellent recommendations around best practices and pilot programs and such. And then in your next meetings, it would be great if you were also putting together a calendar, kind of like you saw for the larger IPRTF, to have your own calendars for each of your subcommittees, planning out the next 6, 12, 18 months to get the work done to bring to the larger IPRTF. So that's kind of a one pager. Hopefully it's helpful in kind of showing you what the process might look like.
Right. All right. Thank you, Peter. So let's take down the slide and just say, ask if anybody, this is pretty much the presentation and the planning process that we wanted to share with you all today. Do you have any questions at this point? Feedback on how it will work? Okay, wonderful. Thanks all. Really appreciate your support and your contributions. And I think we're ready to move to the next item on our agenda.
Great, and the next item is the draft year-end report. And Holly, did you have anything you wanted to say on that?
No, just
No.
this. I'll just say that you've got it in your packet. Scott gave us a little bit of feedback that we can. I don't think anything's substantive, so we'll take that into the final drafting. Did anybody else, do you all got a chance to read it, right? Yes? Y'all read it?
And
Not yet?
Scott's work on it was very detailed. He picked up a few things that I know that I had missed, and those can be integrated. So if anybody has anything else, better get those in. But okay.
Great. So if you have any other comments, if you could get them in like today or tomorrow, okay, so we can be done with this report would be awesome.
Yeah, just the process is that those comments, any edits you see that are needed will go to Jennifer Moon, who's the one who's authored the report this year. And she will finish it up, and you will get what should be a final draft in your packet for the December meeting, where we hope to approve it and be done. Thanks.
Great. And so the next item is on our agenda is the Index Committee mission statement. And Bertie, do you want to present that?
You're on mute, Bertie.
Okay, thank you very much. At the direction of Peter and Heather, the Index Committee, along with the other committees, has re-looked at its mission and revised it to reflect the current state of affairs and our advisory role. And I believe it's in the packet. Is that correct? I don't see it.
It is in the packet, yes.
But it's there. So I would like to make a motion that the IPRTF approve the new revised mission statement and that we forward it to the county council to add it to the implementation plan.
Great. And do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second from Scott. Is there any discussion?
If anyone has questions, I'm happy to go into more detail.
Jill here. Just doing a real quick head count. It doesn't look like we have a quorum right now.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we'll have to bring it up, I guess, in our next meeting. That's unfortunate. How far off are we?
Looks like we are maybe just one or two people short. Let me do one head count right quick. Yeah, it looks like we are just one person short, unfortunately.
Okay. And we have no affordances for voting outside of this meeting. So as far as I know, so we would need to bring it up in December's meeting. That was a question, Jill.
I'm sorry, say that again.
We don't have any other affordances for other methods of voting outside this meeting, so we would, by necessity, bring it up for a vote in December.
Yes, that's correct.
That was a practice run.
Okay, all right. And if you haven't read it, you've got one more month to take a look at it and come up with any questions. All right. Okay, we'll move on to the next item then. And the next item is the Justice Project Implementation Plan update. And Holly, you want to take that?
Yeah, I sure can. Before I do this, oh, actually, that's a different proposal. I'm going to turn it over to Marty, and she's going to give a little update on some stuff that is fun and interesting related to the implementation plan. So, Marty?
Yeah. So the top priority for this group was selected as the really focusing on the design of and implementation of best practices in a new jail and behavioral care center. And so right along those lines, Caleb Erickson approached David Goldman, who is an educator in the jail, who he and I and Holly conducted the first the surveys of people in the jail, incarcerated and jail staff for the Stakeholder Advisory Committee and implementation planning process. So Caleb approached David, David approached us, and the question was, wouldn't it be good to do some more structured interviewing or survey with people in the jail who are incarcerated there about design factors? So we've now, we're at the very beginning of this discussion, but we've met and talked about doing both a couple focus groups with groups of inmates, and then a survey. A great thing that's happened since the previous survey efforts is that all people who are incarcerated have access to tablets, and we can do a survey of everybody via tablets. So that's very cool. So we are at the very beginning of designing focus groups and survey questions to ask that we'll try to gain some input that would be useful in designing both the facility and services for the jail. And we'll figure out more about the process of providing input on those questions and as they develop, and the timing as well. And we'll report back to you. Anything else you want to say about that, Holly, or anybody? Okay.
No, that's great. I think that's it then on the implementation plan.
Okay, very good. And so it's now time for committee updates. And why don't we begin with Barry and steering committee?
Barry's not here today.
Oh, he's not. Oh, okay. All right. Well, I can see that we were going to have a motion to suspend this crisis stabilization facility committee for 6 months. Its job basically is complete, and its former chair is now gone. So yes, Holly.
Yeah. Do you guys have anyone you can text and call so you can have a quorum? Because we've got a proposal, we have that proposal, and then the J-POP committee has a proposal that's time sensitive. I don't know how you normally work, but is there anyone who you think might be out there you could text and ask just to come in quickly for a vote?
Still here. I can email folks and ask them to join if at all possible. Thank you.
Jill, could you say that again? The sound came in and out for a sec.
Yeah, sure. I can email everyone and see if anyone can attend and jump on. Thanks.
That'd be awesome. And Raylene, was that?
Yeah,
Good.
Holly, I just wanted to let you know, there's a few things going on at the courthouse this morning. One, the case management system has been down for 2 weeks. It just came back up today. So a lot of the players are working on that. And then there was also somebody that broke into the courthouse this morning. So there's a lot of people working on that right now. So you may have people that aren't here because they're quite busy this morning. So just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Well, and I'm so glad that it's on the that situation with the case management stuff is getting fixed. That is just sounded awful. So, okay.
Oh, while that's happening, Raylene, would you like to give an update on legal and justice?
You know what? I'm wondering if Maya can help me out with that today. I'm just, I got a lot going on here this morning, and if she has a recap that she might remember for me, that would be fabulous. Or Bertie, I think she was at the last legal and justice meeting, but yeah, I'm working on a few things right now.
Yeah, I don't have I can't really give a report on that. I'm sorry, Raylene. I don't even remember. Sorry. But I know Raylene should be excused from everything. So
I'm really sorry about that, Peter. Like I said, we've got a lot going on this morning.
Yes, and as I walked into the conference room in the courthouse, I saw the damage that was done last night. It was very disturbing. So that's on top of it. Bertie, go ahead.
I can give a very brief report. I have my notes here. It would be somewhat of the meeting according to Bertie, because these are the personal notes I
That's fine.
took,
I'll
but,
take what I can get at this point.
I think that the things that I took away from it is that, they are resolving cases faster now, and that's a really positive thing. That led to a discussion of how best to measure that and how they've been able to measure it. And so we had a short data discussion. And one of the things I took away from that is it would be helpful to both defense and prosecution if they had a clearer idea of someone saying, this are the data points we need, and they could work on that, as opposed to trying to plow through all the many, many different ways of looking at it. So that was one thing. And then there was a discussion about let me just Medicaid, and Caleb did a nice job of going through where we stand with the new Medicaid waiver and all of the amazing amount of logistical work that's going to take just to get them up and running. And I think the earliest people will truly be enrolled is next summer, if all things go smoothly. And there's a lot of issues which I won't go into detail now, but it's pretty amazing. And I think they're on it and doing a really good job. Part of it is a lot of the processes are designed for long-term correctional facilities, and they have to figure out ways that that can be redone for jails where you don't know what the last 90 days of incarceration are, because people are coming and going and for a lot of different legal reasons. So I think those were the two major discussions that happened, at least to the best of my memory. So.
Okay, very good. One point I'd like to make, or just observation around the public defenders and prosecutors' requests for data, kind of, data measures and metrics is Measures for Justice. And if you don't have the link, I can send it to you at your request. They have done a great deal of work on those very subjects and have available on their website metrics and measures for both prosecutors' departments and public defenders' departments. And that would be an excellent place to start to review those, consider adapting them to Whatcom County, and then bringing them forward to this body. And hopefully at some point, our contractor, Village Reach, will be brought on and we can start this whole process in earnest. But, much of that work has already been done by Measures for Justice. So, all right. And let's get a update from J-Pop. Marty, is that you?
You want to do it?
Okay. The most basic thing is that our next meeting is coming up on Thursday, and that is at 2:00. And we're going to have Amy Fuller from County Health and Community Services do a presentation about results-based accountability. It's like a 101, just getting familiar with the language and concepts or approach of that results-based accountability framework, which is the way that we expect to be looking at the outcomes of the various implementation plan projects. So you're all invited, and information's online about that too on the Justice Project webpage. The other thing is that in our charter, we have from the ordinance, we have all of the seats that are designated for the J-POP. And some of those are appointed and some of them are just assigned. And an oversight was the prosecutor's office. There was not a designated seat for the prosecutor's office, and that is a mistake that has been identified. And we'd like to rectify that with an addition which needs to go to the council from the IPRTF. Where unfortunately, it looks like we still don't have a quorum, so we can't approve that. What we were gonna ask you to do is approve this proposal before it goes to the J-POP, and then have the J-POP approve it, and then it would go forward to council. We're gonna be a little out of sync, I guess, and we'll try to figure out how to make this all happen over the next month. It may just be that we'll have to do it at the next meeting. I'm not sure yet. We'll powwow, just have a little further conversation about process. But the proposal was to add a designated seat for the prosecutor's office. And if anybody has any concerns about that, this would be a good time to air those concerns. It looks like, well, we don't have Eric anymore. But if anybody has any comments, just raise your hand. Otherwise, we'll move forward with this proposal to the J-POP.
And Jill, just confirming, we have not had anybody join us further. We
We have
still do not
not.
have a quorum.
No,
Okay.
we have not.
All right. Unfortunate.
Okay, anything else, Holly, that I neglected to mention? Okay, I think that's it.
All right, thank you. So with committee reports completed, other business, is there any other business that anyone would like to bring up? And hearing none, oh yes, Dane.
Yeah, I just wanted to let the task force know that I testified in front of the state Supreme Court last Wednesday regarding the public defense proposal, and it just wanted to provide that the information from the city of Bellingham on the impacts that we would see. So I just wanted to provide that, and that's all public. You can watch the video if you want. I think my testimony started at about 2 hours in.
All right, thank you, Dan. Any other business? Okay, well, thank you for joining us. Let's make sure that we have a quorum next time. We'll do what we can to make sure that happens in our December meeting. And, whoa, Bertie, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to make sure you allowed time for public comment.
Yes, okay.
Sorry,
And
I wasn't sure that was on your
sure.
radar.
Yeah, that's the next item.
Sorry.
Public comment, Jill, there is nobody here in the conference room with me. Do we have anyone online?
Thank you. We do have a number of attendees. If you would like to speak to the task force, please virtually raise your hand now, and we do have one hand raised. Jason, go ahead and speak to the task force.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, Jason.
This is Jason Corneliuson, Strategic Initiatives Manager with the city. I've been here the entire meeting. I was sent by Mayor Lund as her designee for the day. I'm just chiming in to make my presence known in the event that I don't know if I'm authorized to vote on her behalf and thus have a quorum here today, but she did send me in her place, knowing that she wouldn't be able to attend today.
Well, there's our quorum. Thank you very much, Jason. I apologize. I did not see you and promote you earlier.
Oh, it's okay. I've been raising my hand over and over, but no one's seen it, I guess. I also emailed Marty trying to get someone's attention. So I've been kind of screaming in silence back here this whole meeting. But that's okay. Thanks for calling me on now.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Jason. So
if you want to, sorry, Jason, if you want to stay on the line after the meeting, I can get your email address and we can share and so this doesn't happen again. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
okay, thank goodness. And Jill, so we do have a quorum. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Very good. Well, let's go to J-pop. So, did you want to make a motion, Marty?
First, I just want to show you that I think this was in your packet. So this is the proposal to add a seat to the J-pop. Here's the actual text of the proposal itself. One seat to be designated and appointed by the prosecutor's office. And the reason this is essential is because of the prosecutor's office role in diversion, which is so critical to the desired systems changes that the IPRTF and the J-pop aim to make. Am I able to make a motion? Because I'm not a member. No, Bertie says no. Bertie, are you going to make?
I'm not the authority, but I doubt that you are. So I was just going to make that motion.
And do we have a second?
I'll second it.
I've got a second from Scott. And any discussion? Dan?
Yeah, have we had Eric Ritchie chime in on this, or someone designee from the prosecutor's office on this particular motion?
Not in this meeting, and not and no, but it was in the packet, and we have not heard anything. We can, in between this and the J-pop's not till Thursday, we could do a double check. This is, like I tried to say before, it's out of sync, because usually the J-pop would bring a past motion to you, and then you would bring it to council. And we're just trying to get it approved ahead of the J-pop meeting because of the timing of these, the way these two meetings are falling on the calendar. So this is an advance approval before it goes to the J-pop. And we can do a double check with Eric Ritchie if to say, you know, this is what we'd like to bring forward. The rest of the IPRTF approved it in advance, and if that works for you.
Dan, go ahead.
No, I think this is out of sequence. I don't feel comfortable providing an advisory or having an advisory task force providing direction without some kind of at least tacit approval of the department that we're requesting personnel be assigned from.
Heather, go ahead.
If it's helpful, I'll text Eric Ritchie right now. And I guess one thing, Dan, I'd like to add is that in the drafting of the ordinance, I don't think there was any ask of, are you okay with being on this body? It was very much a who needs to be there to have a productive conversation. I can't imagine Prosecutor Ritchie has any issue with this, but I'll text him right now and just double check if that helps with an advisory vote. And because J-pop is a subcommittee of the IPRTF, I think that it's okay for us to, like, we have purview over this conversation. And if it's advisory or a recommendation for J-pop to consider this and for prosecutor's office to agree, that might be a little more palatable, is what I'm hearing.
If we had a thumbs up from Prosecutor Ritchie, I would be okay with that. Otherwise, I'm a no.
I'll text him right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
And Bertie?
I was going to say, if we don't hear back from him, I could amend the motion that we move to add a seat from the prosecutor's office to J-pop with the approval of, or with feedback first from the prosecutor's office.
Thank you.
All right.
That sounds good.
The second would have to approve that, but
Can we hear that second? See if there's
I would approve that, but I see Heather's on the phone. Let's see if we get a response.
that
If
would be
not, then we
better.
can do it your way.
Yeah.
It'll work.
It sounds like she's engaging with, okay. Yes, Heather, do we have news?
Eric says, yes, of course.
Okay, Dan, are you, you're good?
Yep, good to go.
All right. Any other discussion before we take a vote? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, raise your hand either raise your hand online there, or raise your hand here. All right. And any opposed?
Just to clarify,
Seeing,
Arlene, are you opposed or? Thank you.
okay. Any abstentions? All right, that motion passes.
Thank you all.
And thank you very much. So let's see, let's go, now that we have a quorum, we need to go back to a previous motion. Jill, can you help me out? Where were we?
Yes, the index mission is one
Oh,
item.
that's right. Of course, yes. And we had a motion and a second, I believe, on that. And so any discussion? Dan?
Can you restate the motion? I'm sorry, apologize.
Absolutely. Bertie, did you made
Well,
the
I
original
don't
motion,
have
I
it
believe.
right in front of me with the exact wording. Jill, oh, the restate the motion is to approve the revised mission statement for the index committee. That's in the packet. Sorry.
Okay. Very good. So seeing no more discussion, we can now take a vote. All those in favor, raise your hand. Very good. Any opposed? Please raise your hand. Any abstentions? All right, seeing none, that passes. And thank you very much. I'm so grateful, Jason, and I apologize that I did not see your hand up as an attendee. My apologies. All right, we'll make sure that doesn't happen again. And is there any other going back to public comment, is there any other public comment?
Mr. Chair, there was one more motion from steering committee about putting the crisis stabilization facility committee on hiatus for 6 months. That is a recommendation of the steering committee.
Very good. Thank you very much, Jill.
I'll move approval of that recommendation.
Great. And is there a second? Maya?
A second.
Very good. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All right, and those opposed, please raise your hand. Jason Monson, I see your hand up. Just to clarify, okay. And any abstentions? All right, that motion passes. Now, back to public comment. Is there any other public comment?
We still have a few attendees. If you would like to speak to the task force, please virtually raise your hand now. And no hands are raised.
Okay, very good. And with that, we will close this meeting of the IPRTF and Legal and Justice Council for November, is it 18th, 2024. Thank you all for attending. I'm thankful that we reached a quorum and got some business done. All right, we'll see you next month.